growing weary of running from room to room, practicing one-tooth insurance-driven dentistry? Then stay tuned for the latest episode of The Lionhearted, where Dr. Stephen Rasner will hand you the blueprint for what many call the gold standard of general practice dentistry.
Hi everyone, Dr. Steve Rasner here. You're tuned in to The Lionhearted Dentist. This is one of those podcasts this week where I'm doing it after work. So if my voice is a little off, or if you're watching me and I look, like we can look after a day's work, that's why. But as you heard me say in the past, I like doing these after work because everything's fresh, everything's real. So the last couple podcasts I've been talking about money and about highly productive days. And last week I was trying to break down the big M word, the money word, as to everything about it. Like, why is it important? Why is it important to get paid up front? And I found myself going pretty long with you, so I cut short the end of it. And so I like to just wrap that up because it would be really tragic if some of you didn't really feel the whole message or believe the whole message. And the message is this. There's a lot of you listening in each week. Some dental students for sure, even D2s. Many of you starting out in practice, which I don't know. I think the 1 to 10 year group feels like my largest audience. But there's also many of you, I hope anyway, that maybe you've been out there quite a long time, 20 years, and everything was going great until Corona, or maybe even before, and you feel like you've hit the wall. So these podcasts are for you, man, because everything I tell you works so well that I'm just so anxious to hear feedback from you that you tried the morning meeting the way I've discussed it, or you've tried the monthly meetings or the every 2-week meetings. And if you haven't tuned in before, go back in the titles of my podcast and you'll understand what I was just alluding to. Because each and every week I continue, after 40 years, to have verifiable proof that these principles that don't even cost you money, they cost something. They cost you the price of, are you brave enough? For real. It is so easy to not change. Isn't it? It's so easy to go through and keep doing things the way you're doing, especially if they're not that bad. But tonight's podcast is not going to be about things being not that bad. It's about really maximizing your potential in anything you do, by the way. But certainly, since we're all dentists listening, by the way, it's not all dentists listening. I get feedback from lawyers. God knows how they know about this podcast. Even people that own barbershops that can relate to these topics. And I get it, because they do work for any and every business. So this week's podcast is dedicated to two things. I do want to spend just a few moments on the M word, the money word again, and clean that up so you understand completely why I think that's so important. And what I mean by that is, you have to pay attention to the financial parameters of this business, which is your practice, that you are nurturing, that you are developing in a community. You're damn right you got to pay attention to that, to your fees. How do you get paid? To your billing, to what insurance companies are you going to continue to get ripped off by? And that last sentence I just said, let me say it again. You have to decide what insurance companies you're going to continue to get ripped off by. I hope there's some insurance companies watching. Why don't you challenge me? Why don't you tell me, Mr. Insurance Company, that what I'm telling my brothers and sisters here, my colleagues, is not true. That you aren't ripping us off. That you didn't come to us 15 years ago and say, you know what, we're not going to pay you what we've been paying you. We're going to pay you 40 to 60% on that same dollar we used to pay you. But if you have a big practice, if you have 20 offices, we'll pay you more for the same service that the solo practitioner down the street is doing. That's real ethical. That's real fair. Can you see and feel the anger? I don't even take insurance, which is why I don't take insurance. And I want the Lionhearted dentist to employ the principles that I share each and every week so that you can position yourself so you can tell these companies to you know what. I'm serious, man. I'm tired of it. And once in a while you catch me in a cantankerous mood and a combative mood, but it's all real. Everything I espouse about that is real. And you need somebody to kick you in the pants for once in a while. Listen, I took insurances early on. In the 80s and 90s, most of your older dentists in your communities would tell you it wasn't so bad. But it changed 15, 20 years ago. And then you have the onslaught, as you've heard me talk about, of corporate dentistry. And look, what can I say about corporate dentistry? It's here to stay. But this podcast that you tune into weekly is dedicated to the other dentist, the fee-for-service dentist. Why? Why do I care about that? Because I think it's safe to say that if I scoop a scoop of dental work from a large corporation or from a heavily insurance-driven office versus a fee-for-service office, if I was getting work done, I'd go to the fee-for-service office because I think the quality and the product is probably superior. And I don't know how any more genteel to put that. So yeah, this money stuff is important. Look, I have a friend who was in private practice for 30 plus years, fell on hard times, and now he's in corporate dentistry because he doesn't have a choice. And this guy was a great clinician. And he's still a great clinician, but he's in an environment that is counterproductive to producing high-end dentistry, where equipment and supplies are sparse, and especially quality products. Well, why? Well, because they probably don't have the budget for it. So it doesn't even have to be a corporate office. It could be a solo office listening to me right now, and you just can't get it all together. The one thing I have to tell you to remember when you hear me speak like this is time is a precious commodity for you. In both ways you look at it. Yes, time can run out or tick away and you lose years of doing things not optimally. But you also have a lot of time. You can totally change the atmosphere, the quality, the philosophy of your office in a couple of years. And a couple of years blows by like nothing. It's not too late. I don't give a damn if you've been doing this 20 years. Why would you not be motivated by aspiring to the highest possible quality care you can deliver? How could that not be your end goal? And it's not the most profitable goal. I know for a fact it's not. But man, the satisfaction, the self-satisfaction of walking into an office daily where you look in the eyes of people, isn't that what you're creating? Or those of you in an associateship right now that want to be in your own private practice, I have to think that's a thought that goes through the minds of every dentist at some point. Even though you wonderful souls, and I mean that, in public service, healthcare. God bless you. I mean it. You have no agenda. You are truly contributing to this world. I mean that. But even you must, at times, think about what it must feel like to really run something your way, where you're proud of your product. And you can see that in the eyes of the people that have walked in the doors of your organization at some point and choose to have you do their care. They go out of network and they pay more out of their pocket because there is a market in every city in the world, in every rural community in the world. There is a market for high-end oral health care. So let me get to the byproduct of having a healthy financial dental organization. Well, number one, your sense of what I was just talking about, your sense of community. It certainly is difficult to plan projects that can cost $1,000 to $3,000 or $4,000 in your community if you're just constantly looking at a bank account that's deplete of sufficient dollars. I don't think there's anything you could ever do as an organization to bond closer and unite your staff than community service projects. And if you want ideas, if this sounds like something that's inviting to you, you're talking to a guy that's done it for, 35 of my 40 years. I don't even remember where it came from, to be honest with you. But I can tell you this, I feel blessed and fortunate that I thought it got planted in my brain years ago. Yeah, I could spend several episodes of this podcast giving you just ideas. I'll just give you one I did right before COVID. So I reached out to the mentally challenged community leaders in my community because I've done a lot of stuff, and it's called ARC in the United States, ARC. And I believe that stands for Association of Retarded Citizens, which I find offensive, but I really believe that is what it's called. And I reached out to them and said, and I haven't given a community project in a couple of years, which was unusual for me. Look, things happen. We all intend to do things, but over my career, I've done quite a bit. And I said, what would be the most beneficial? That's how it starts. So we had a couple patients that somebody did the research on. And long story short is we ended up providing a prom. It was in the month of June, the June before COVID, for, I'd say, 75 kids. And we had everything, dancing and a DJ and balloons and finger painting and a photo booth and, of course, dinner. And I could almost cry. I mean, I'm being honest with you. Just thinking about their faces that night. And I had it, by the way, put on a video, which we gave. I'd gladly send it to you. If you could ask Beth. I don't know, it'd probably be a long email. I might have to send it through some special way to you. But it's so priceless. It's got, and you're doing this with your team, by the way. So my whole team was there. That's a lot different than a lunch and learn, folks. It's an incredible thing. And you can do it on any scale. It doesn't have to be what I just said. But giving back to your community, even if it never brought you one patient, I have so many ideas. Just write to me. I can get them out the same day to you. So, but you can't do that if you don't have a financially healthy organization. Other things I want to comment on is providing gratuitous care. I mean, a lot of you do that. I get it. A lot of you participate even overseas, and I think that's a wonderful thing. In my own community, I can't imagine going beyond, to be honest with you, my own community of providing gratuitous care, because there's so many needy people in every community of every dentist listening to me right now. I don't know, maybe that sounds, I don't know what it sounds like. And I know we have the need for those of us to go out overseas and help really remote regions of the world with oral health. But you could certainly start in your own community. Or even with your own patients. Or, the children of some of your patients. Or the relatives. Or even a regular patient. So many of our patients are in the senior age category at this point. I mean, I know it's not unique to me that you must have a bevy of patients like I do in their 80s and 90s. Man, that's a beautiful place to start. Yeah, providing incredibly inexpensive or just free care. It's something I do weekly. And I'm sure many of you do, but wouldn't it be easier to do that if you had a sound financial principles of the organization? And wouldn't that be a good thing? That allowed you and enabled you to do things you would never be able to do? Man, I can tell you one thing, and I know you believe by the look in my eye, but the satisfaction of any of the things I just alluded to outweighs a bank deposit in your personal account infinitely. And just remember also, this is the last thing I want to say about the M word for a while. It's really hard for us professionals to live below our means. And I get it, because we were in school forever. We were in debt. You poor son of a guns that have gotten out of dental school in the last 5 to 10 years. God knows the debt that you're in. And if you can have the discipline to not buy a house bigger than you need, or a car more than you need. I had a new car. And I need to say this. I didn't live like that. How more honest could I be with you? In my first 15 years, I did not live like that. I remember saying that borrowing money didn't frighten me at all. I was proud of that. It was quite stupid. It was. Because I always, as long as I could fit it in my monthly budget, I would buy it. And I had new cars, nice ones, every 2 or 3 years. New ones, not used, new. So as soon as I drove it off the lot, I just lost a big percentage because I had to have a new car. I remember screaming inside some of those cars. At the moment, it made me happy. And it's nice to treat yourself, but it's also nice not to be financially inept. And I was. And if you're living life on your credit cards and you're not saving money and you're in your first 10 years of practice, 15 years, you can overcome it, but you got a long struggle ahead of you. Let me make that clear. You can overcome those mistakes, but it's a long struggle. And everyone I know with huge success in their 50s and upward. 50s are nothing. I know you think they are. I'm in my mid-60s. 50 sounds so young right now. Because it is. Everybody I know that is in a really good financial spot, I know a lot of dentists, they all have the common thread of, and if you're in debt, you can change all this in a matter of a couple years, but you got to start. And it's not as fun driving a used car. And maybe it's not as much fun living in the okay house or one house. But it's a lot more fun when you're living life on your own terms. And what I always say, success is defined by you working when you want to work, 3 days a week, maybe, even at the age of 40-something. No nights, traveling and seeing the world, because you can. Because you can. You don't have to dissect time off because you have to produce and collect a certain amount of money because you have so much debt that influences your personal life. And you can tell by me the way I'm talking to you that there was times in my life that was clearly the case. It's not anymore. It hasn't been for a while. I'm trying to help you, man. And if part of helping you is me being stone cold honest, maybe that's why I'm able to help. So I want to leave you with this tonight. I want to ask you, I really want you to feel this. What kind of athlete are you? You're a dentist. But if dentistry was a sport, who are you? Are you just a middle-of-the-road athlete that nobody's ever going to hear about? Nobody's ever going to marvel at anything you do? Are you Kobe? Tiger? I thought of this because by the time you get this podcast, we all will know that Tiger Woods had a really bad accident. And I don't know Tiger. Or Serena. Or did I know Kobe? Or Michael Jordan. But I've read all you have to do is Google famous athletes that I like the analogy between us and our work ethic and what we're willing to put in to athletics. I find it similar. It makes me think of a message you've heard me share with you from a famous motivational speaker named Eric Thomas. Google Eric Thomas, The Beach Story. I've talked about it on another podcast. But in that YouTube, you'll see Eric Thomas ask you, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want to change your life? Those of you right now in a toxic associateship that you hate. You didn't go to dental school for that. Those of you in dental school, maybe intrepid about what's going to happen when you get out. You think the story I share with you every week is unique to me? I wasn't a superstar at all. I wasn't even close to a superstar. I bet most of you would be very fine with me providing your dentistry because that came from a lifetime of training. I don't know if I'm Kobe or Tiger, but I probably have trained as hard as them, and so can you. I think the point I'm making to you is, are you just going to wish for it? Eric Thomas says, do you want success as bad as you want to miss that Netflix series? Because you got to put the time in. Do you want success as bad as you don't want to watch TV? Or put down your cell phone and quit playing games on your cell phone? Or idle talk? He even asked, do you want it more than you need to sleep? I think you need to sleep personally. My point is you need to commit. Stop dreaming about what you can have. You get this every week from me, what you can have. I told you in the last couple of podcasts, those extraordinary days I have, which I had this week too. They come from putting this all together. And putting this all together comes from you being willing to make some changes right now to get from where you're at right now to where you want to be. And that starts in our sport of dentistry, in training more. It does. And when you train, your case acceptance goes up because your confidence goes up in whatever it is you trained. I guess if you want to count this part of the podcast as a rah-rah speech, I didn't intend it to be that, but that's what it is. Because I think you need somebody to push you. Don't go into next month and the rest of this year with the same thing you did last year. Even if you're successful, you shouldn't do that. Listen, I want for you potential, maximizing your potential. That's what I'm trying to share with you. And you're not going to get it just by listening to me. You have to take action. So those of you that want it, and some of you do this, most of you don't. I don't know what I would do if you all started listening, because I couldn't probably, I don't know what I would do. I like to have that problem. But most of you don't email me. And I don't know what you're tuning in for, unless you're running with what I'm giving you and making changes. It's right in front of you. There's nothing stopping you except you. Thanks for tuning in. You guys seem to like my clinical lecture from a couple weeks ago. I gave you clinical tips you can turn around and use on Monday. So write to me, tell me what you want. Thanks for tuning in. Stay strong, and see you next week on the Lionhearted.